Here at Superbooth 2017 with Aaron at 1010 Music. We're going to check out the Bitbox, the Fxbox, and the new prototype of the Synthbox as well. So let's start with the Bitbox and the sampler. Just a quick overview of those features.
Right, so Bitbox is our 24-bit sampler. It uses a 4x4 grid of samples, kind of like a MPC or Ableton Live, and you can trigger the samples from the screen, or using this matrix-style arrangement of gate inputs, which also trigger the samples. In addition, you can use the MIDI input and trigger things that way. So we've got a BeatStep Pro that controls these samples as well. So you can sequence and do a lot of interesting things using MIDI. In addition, there's 4 modulation inputs that can be used with external LFOs or controls of any kind to modulate the samples. You get the ability with the Bitbox to actually see the sample and play with the start and stop points and even do some amount of slicing because you've got on-screen waveforms and the ability to scan through the different waves and play little bits and pieces. Up here you've got the, a bit of the aim and break that you can play in different parts by simply changing which different piece you use. You can select which slice and the software automatically scans through the waveform and pulls out the transient so you don't have to do that manual work. So Bitbox has been in production now for a few months and is available in the US for $600 and generally available in Europe for 600 euros.
Yeah, so building upon that, we've now got the Fxbox to the right. Is this prototype still, or is this finished product?
So this Fxbox over here has just begun shipping as of 2 weeks ago, and it is firmware that can be loaded onto the Bitbox and also is available as a separate product. So what it does is it has 16 different effects algorithms that you can engage and disengage using the touchscreen, just like you can with the samples. So something like this would engage the bit crusher, and pressing this one will engage the filter. And all the different effects are anything from special effects like flanging and phaser to more bread and butter things like delay and reverb. And as before, you've got gate inputs that can control these and modulations that can adjust them over time. In addition, you can adjust the control with an XY pad, kind of like a Chaos pad. And I can show you some demos of that if you... Got some drum sounds playing in the background, and you can hear that as I do this, it slowly cuts in and out. You're using the cutoff and resonance as determined by the screen.
With the mod inputs, are they predefined mods for that effects, or is all this reroutable in terms of what you want to do with the CV ins?
It's very reroutable. So if I take this input over here and connect it to my mod, and I can drill in and say I want to control the cutoff of the filter for that amount. So now you can hear that the sound is being changed, and you can see the internal, you can see the modulation coming in and shown on screen with the side to side.
Can that be routed to several things? So it could do the filter and a distortion amount if they're next to each other, or?
Right now it can just do one thing at a time, so it's a one-to-one connection, but you do have 3 of these inputs that you can modulate that you can assign as you like.
Okay.
So in addition to the touchscreen-based control of the algorithm, you can also use this touch-based step sequencer. So as we come back out and switch it to gate mode, you'll hear that this is now coming in and out based on the step sequencer. And each one of the algorithms has its own step sequence.
Wow, so potentially a lot of sequencing on and off of effects.
That's correct. And my next step is to show you that I can load presets and do lots of different crazy things all at the same time. So like this one, for example, really tricks things out. And notice that effects are coming in and out. I'll let you give that a listen.
Is preset selection something that's CVable, or is this just loaded by the controls on the panel?
The preset selection is plus or minus or via the touchscreen, but no, it's not possible to select the presets with the CVs.
Okay.
I'll give you one more preset and then we'll move on to something else.
It's a lot of what I've seen in software-based effects, but the first time really seen it in this form on a module.
Great, glad to hear it. We were inspired by lots of software plugins because they can do some really cool, amazing things. And a module like this does a great job of tricking out or remixing beats, and can also take pads or other tones and really breathe life into them by adding rhythms and textures that would be hard to do otherwise.
Having all those on and offs for the effects as well, a lot of potential for random gates, sequences, trigger rhythms.
Agreed.
So we've got a prototype of the Synthbox over to the left as well.
So moving on to the next module, we've got the Synthbox, which is going to be out in the summer, and it's a 4-note polyphonic synthesizer in a box that's inspired by, again, inspired by plugins and what you can do on an iPhone or something like that. You've got 2 different wavetable oscillators, and it's simple waveform-based oscillator. The best way to control this module is using MIDI because it takes care of polyphonic input and also lets you control things like velocity and hopefully soon modulation inputs as well. So you've got a simple demo here. This is a full-fledged multi-voice patch that I'm going to kick off. I'll switch to a sequence and let you hear how that sounds.
Over CV without MIDI, can we still address it polyphonically, or does that reduce it to mono?
You will be able to address this via 4 sets of CV plus gates, but certainly it's going to be a lot more cumbersome and take some work.
Yeah, and it potentially, I guess, takes away those inputs from other things as well.
That's right.
Brilliant. So, are we expecting Synthbox later this year, or is it?
Bitbox is a summertime product, and we're still looking for your feedback, and we'll be soon putting this into beta and trying to see, just where we're missing the mark and where it needs to have more functionality.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.